Welcome to another GCBASIC demonstration. This demonstration is for the AVRDx range of microcontrollers. We're implementing that in the compiler and in the libraries, and this one is specific around the USART or serial operations, August 2024. Let's start with a special thanks slide to Cribcat or Greg on the forum. He's been providing me with assembler, which I've then taken that core assembler and integrated that into the libraries and put all the wrappers that make it very intelligent with respect to GCBASIC. But it's essentially, he's been providing assembler and he's providing more assembler for other libraries, which is fantastic. I am very grateful. So what is USART or serial? It's a versatile communication. It permits high data rates. It has really good protocol support across a whole series of devices, and it has great microcontroller integration. So it's very available and been available on PICs, AVRs, and LGTs. And now, obviously, you could write your own library to do this, but we've now got that inbuilt capability within GCBASIC. And it's very low power consumption. It's very efficient. Within GCBASIC, we have some basic routines that are built in, and that allows you to set up the hardware serial routines so you can send data extremely simply. There are many different modules, and I'm going to show you I think three modules today, but essentially you very simple commands, and you've got the full set of commands available to you for serial operations. Very easy to set up. GCBASIC sets up the transmission and reception pins as per the datasheet automatically for you. And it's a really simple way to communicate with the outside world using GCBASIC. I use it extensively for debugging and monitoring, so it's ideal for sending debug information and monitoring data to a terminal, and that's what we're going to see. What am I using? I'm using a C Nano board. This is the board I'm actually using. It's a photograph of it, which is great, but it doesn't actually show you what I need to show you. I'm going to have to show you this, a very complex diagram. So what we're going to do is we're going to be using two of the communication ports or the USART ports on here. So I'm just going to put a pen on here, pen here. So we are going to be using USART3, which is this group here. And it's also shown on this diagram here. Why have I marked it twice? One here and second one here is because this US port also goes out the USB, also goes out the USB port through what's called a CDC driver. And I'm also got hooked up to here USART1, and that is connected up through a USB TTL, and we're going to see them both operating. Now, what's important in all this is that these things are on different ports. This is on PB0, this is on PC0. There's another serial port on this chip somewhere. Let me have a look at it. There's a UART0 here on, I guess that's PA0. And there are up to there are a number of options, but we're just going to look at two, which is USART3 and USART1. And remember, 3 goes through the USB port. So what we're going to look at the editor, GC code. We're going to have two sessions of terminal operating, and then we're going to set up the hardware USART, and we're going to send a configuration to send information out to the two terminals. So do one on USART1 to one terminal, another session to USART3 to a second terminal, and then we can send it to both. But I'm also going to show you software USART and show you how to configure that, and we're going to send some information to there as well. So let me go out to my desktop. Here is my terminals. I'm just setting them all up so you can see them. There we go. Now, if hopefully you can see all this. Now, there's quite a lot of information on the screen, but essentially what I've got here on the screen is, on the left-hand side, I've got GC code, the editor. On the right-hand side, at the top, I've got a terminal to one of the USART ports and another one, which is these two terminals here. And as you can see at the bottom, it's counting away. And really, it's pretty simple to set up. The code itself is all the code is shown to you on the screen in the editor. What we have to do, we have to tell it what chip it is. Well, I'm using a 4809. I always use option explicit. Just make sure I define all my variables. And then, because I'm sending data out in USART1, I define 3 blocks of information. And I can delete that, and I can literally in this editor go underscore USART, and it will actually put me a USART template up. And that's a USART template. And all I'm going to do is say USART1, and turn the delay off. Don't really need that delay. And because it's already running, I'm going to put an exclamation mark in here. So basically what I've got here is dimension a variable called XX, and then I'm going to increment that, and I'm going to show that on the screen. And that's what you can see on the screen every second. It's using hardware serial print a string with a character return line feed. That is all that we have to do. You could use any of these commands, print string, send, get number, get string, print, receive from, send. You can send a space, print a byte with a character return, print a character return. Have a look in the help. There are so many different commands that you can use, but I'm using this one, and this is hardware print a string, and my string is send XX as a string, and then put the words hardware USART on there. So all we have to do is put in these 3. If you don't, it will issue an error message, and that's fine. So I'm going to press function key F5, or I can take the top right, this little arrow, this little icon here, make hexagon flash. And we should see this terminal down here on the right hand side go back to 0 with an exclamation mark. So we are definitely programming it. We've programmed the chip, we've changed the function. So that was on serial on USART1. If I want to change my program to USART3, it's the default. So if you've only got one of these defined, GCBASIC will automatically route the information, the serial operations to that particular USART. So now it's gone to the top terminal, which must be on USART3, because the bottom one has now stopped. So if you have one USART configured, GCBASIC will automatically send that data to that port. But what happens if you have more? Well, let's define 2. Let's define 2 of them. So I've taken a copy of that, and I'm just going to change that as well. Now, it's going to send it. It doesn't know where to send it. It has a default of 0 because we're not using USART 0. So what I can do in here, in my program, I can add in which port I want to send it to. I'm going to send it to number 1, but I'm also going to send it to number 3 simultaneously, a few milliseconds afterwards. So I'm going to put a 3 in here. So hardware, I'm going to print the same string with the same value of X to both ports because we saw it working. And the program will automatically configure the ports for you. It will automatically then route it to the correct terminal. That's the benefit of using GCBASIC. So we've seen that we can selective which one we want. We can pass a parameter to all our serial commands, and it will then route it to the correct USART for you. In the backend, in the assembly that's been generated, it automatically sets up all the ports. So the ports have been set up correctly. You don't have to worry about that. But what I also wanted to show you was this. This is using software to do the same thing. So what this does, you can look in the help, but essentially there's a set of defines, and you can therefore use software serial on any port that's got an output. Doesn't really matter which one it is. We are locked into the predefined ones with the hardware USART, but with the software USART, we can actually define any port that to be valid. I've said I want baud rate of 9,600, port B 0, and that's the transmit port. Transmit pin is 0, and it's going to send a string of software USART. The command set is different. Serial send serial 1, and here we go. We can see that the microcontroller is now using software in the top terminal. The bottom one is obviously not valid at the moment because we're not sending any data out to that, so I'll just clear that down to make it clear. But what we've got is a really simple method. This method of using software is a predefined method. It's nothing special about AVRDx. You can do this on any chip, even to the smallest chip. In terms of size of code, which is always an interesting thing, so I'm going to open up the preference editor. And I'm going to, if I just zoom in on that, I've just unchecked my suppress summary mode here. And that will now give me a bit more information. Put my screen back. So software to one port. That is 417. That's everything all up. That's including all the interrupt handlers, all the string handlers, etc. That's just a reference number. If I'm using hardware to the same port, port 1, and I generate a program, 470 versus 531. Don't know why it's more, but they're relatively small for what they're doing. So if I put 3 in here, because we know that the other one was set up on port 1, USART1, it will now just program that. Oh, there we go. It's come to the top one. My error. That's the top one. Okay, so what have we seen? We've seen that it takes 3 lines of command here to make it work. We set the baud rate. I tested it yesterday up to some horrendous, very large number. I was really surprised how well it worked. Transmit blocking ensures that the buffer is actually empty before we send data. And if you want to add a delay for your terminal, you can add it in here. I've turned it off. And those are the 3 recommended configurations that you need. At the back end, all the clever stuff has been handled for you. You can use alternate ports. These particular chips have alternate ports. You can change to the alternate ports yourself. That's not an issue. You'll have to add in the correct commands to make that happen, but this is using the defaults. So great. So that's what I wanted to show you. Correct configurations for the various options of USART and software USART. So using USART with GCBASIC is extremely easy. Enjoy.